Will Ramsay kill his father Roose Bolton in the books? He may be capable of it, but will he actually do it? Let's take a look at the evidence. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. On this channel we dive deep into A Song of Ice and Fire, as well as other great fantasy worlds like The Lord of the Rings and The Witcher. Welcome. And this is another collaboration with the wonderful History of Westeros. Please do check out their excellent podcast and YouTube channel. There's a link in the description. Before betraying the Starks at the Red Wedding, Roose Bolton shored up his alliance with his co-conspirators the Freys by marrying one of Lord Walder's granddaughters, rather unoriginally named Walder, with an A at the end. By the end of A Dance with Dragons, it appears that she is pregnant, and Roose opines that the Dreadfort might become overrun with Boltons. But then he says that Ramsay will probably kill them all in order to ensure that he inherits the Dreadfort himself. And we already know that Roose also believes Ramsay killed his trueborn son Domeric years ago. Given all that, surely Roose is aware of the possibility that Ramsay might kill him too. But will he be able to stop it? Will Ramsay kill Roose? In the Game of Thrones TV show, this question has already been answered, of course. Ramsay did kill Roose's new child and his wife and Roose himself. However, Ramsay's character and story arc is definitely one of the many changes the show made to the books. In this case, they went to great lengths to make Ramsay a central villain figure, especially in the wake of Joffrey's death. There was a narrative impetus to make him the Lord of the Dreadfort so that he could have full command of the Bolton armies against Jon Snow and Sansa Stark. In the books, however, it's not so straightforward on either count. Sansa is not involved in the northern plot at all, not yet at least. It's Jane Poole, not her, who is forcibly married to Ramsay, and Jon's death is likely to be handled differently. There's no guarantee he leads an army against the Boltons at all, let alone something like the Battle of the Bastards. Maybe he will, but even then the circumstances of the battle will surely be different, if only because of Stannis. In the show, he makes it to Winterfell with his army, only to be wiped out by the superior Bolton force. Yet in the books, it's an army of Freys and Manderleys he's about to face, and they are headed to Stannis' location near a crofter's village, rather than Stannis heading for them at Winterfell, and he has prepared an icy trap that most of the fandom believes will work. And it seems likely that the Manderleys will reveal their true colours and turn on the Freys, a very different battle indeed. So things are different in the books, but that doesn't mean that everything will be different, and Ramsay himself is quite a similar character. In particular, it's clear that Roose almost expects Ramsay to kill any children he has with Walder, with an A. This is the whole quote from Roose when talking about the Dreadfort being overrun with Boltons. If she pops out sons the way she pops in tarts, the Dreadfort will soon be overrun with Boltons. Ramsay will kill them all, of course. That's for the best. I will not live long enough to see new sons to manhood, and boy lords are the bane of any house. Walder will grieve to see them die, though. Which goes to show not only that Ramsay has absolutely no qualms about killing family members, including babies, but just as importantly, that he, by implication, does want to be Lord Bolton one day. Roose expects him to get rid of anyone challenging his place in the line of succession. So might Ramsay take the next psychotic step of logic and speed up the process completely by killing his father? We get an insight when Roose insults Ramsay, reminding him that he is a bastard son, despite him being officially legitimized in the previous chapter, and taking Theon, his favourite toy, from him. We read this, again from Theon's POV. Reek saw the way Ramsay's mouth twisted, the spittle glistening between his lips. He feared he might leap the table with his dagger in his hand. Instead, he flushed red, turned his pale eyes from his father's paler ones, and went to find the keys. Quite revealing, Theon sees that Ramsay wanted to kill his father in that moment. Why didn't he? He was Roose's only living son, so finally heir apparent. Well, we don't know for sure, but it certainly doesn't seem to be a particular love for his father, or fear of Roose, or a recognition that he has few supporters in the Bolton retinue that holds him back. Roose even laughs at the idea that he might have supporters. And even though Roose's guards were outside, there has to be a chance that as the only living Bolton left, even standing over his father's dead body, his men and vassals would have no choice but to obey him, particularly if he blamed Theon, say, for killing Roose. Kinslayer or no, the law and tradition would both make him Lord of the Dreadfort. So perhaps he thought that better opportunities would come, or more likely, given his impatience earlier in the chapter, perhaps he wanted to marry the fake Arya Stark first, to cement his claim not just to the Dreadfort, but also Winterfell and the North, before he killed his father. But shouldn't Roose realise all this as well? He knows what Ramsay is like, and has a notably cautious character. For example, he has a decoy wearing his armour when he passes through the neck for fear of Cranagman arrows, and Lady Dustin points out that Roose never eats or drinks without seeing Lord Manderley consume it first. But in the scene with Ramsay that we've just quoted, Roose dismisses his guards first. It's just the three of them when Theon thinks Ramsay is close to jumping the table. The caution Roose has shown elsewhere seems to be lacking here. Maybe he takes it for granted that Ramsay is conditioned to obey, a bit like how Ramsay believed Reek was so loyal thanks to his brutal conditioning. But as we saw, he was wrong. Not only did Reek escape, he began calling himself Theon again. Roose might have similarly misjudged his son. He laughs at the idea that Ramsay had men of his own, but he might be so overconfident in his control of the Dreadfort men that he has failed to note the most direct approach. Next time, if there is a next time, Ramsay might not back down. His fury might win out over his conditioning. He's a man with a vicious temper, and Roose doesn't seem to fear any consequences from provoking him. But there is another possibility here. Maybe Roose is simply at a loss as to what to do about Ramsay. He says to Theon, "Tell me, my lord, if the Kinslayer is accursed, what is a father to do when one son slays another?" Does Roose truly believe that the old gods have cursed Ramsay, that they would curse him too if he had Ramsay put to death? Roose is too much of an enigma for us to know exactly what he believes or feels, or if he feels at all. He could send Ramsay to the wall, but then he would have no heir until his new wife produces a child, and House Bolton would be in a very precarious position. As long as Ramsay keeps on murdering Roose's other children, and Roose definitely wants there to be an heir for House Bolton, then there's a kind of stalemate here. Roose knows Ramsay might want to kill him, but doesn't feel he can do anything about it. So he is probably left to simply keep his distance from his own son. Roose doesn't have to ever be alone with Ramsay again, a security practice often seen in real-world dynasties of the ancient world, for example. But again, even though he has shown quite a bit of caution elsewhere, he has not shown it with Ramsay. This is quite a dark thought, but perhaps Roose has simply accepted his fate. He definitely appears to be more accepting than most of his own mortality, mentioning to Theon that he won't live to see any new sons live to manhood. We don't know exactly how old Roose is, probably middle-aged or something like that, certainly not old, so it seems a little fatalistic of him to be so certain that he won't survive the next 15 or 20 years, say. Has he simply come to an acceptance that, having made so many enemies of the other northern houses, living in a time of war with a hard winter coming and a son like Ramsay, the odds are against him surviving long term? He has already secured what millennia of Boltons could not, replacing the Starks as preeminent house in the north, so his place in history is secure. It's now just a matter of seeing how long he will survive that for. If he has accepted that he won't live to old age, and that Ramsay will kill all his other children, he has accepted that Ramsay will succeed him. With Theon leaving Winterfell, our last POV character has gone from Roose and Ramsay's side, so we don't know firsthand anything that happens there for the foreseeable future. Now Ramsay has the lordship of Winterfell secured, and a reason to be very, very angry with the loss of his wife and Theon, and threatened by the announcement of Walder with an A's pregnancy. What might he do? If Ramsay does kill Roose early in the Winds of Winter, It sets up a few intriguing possibilities for the story going forward, because Winterfell is a tinderbox right now, with competing groupings at each other's throats, quite literally at times. They're being held together only by a fear of Roose and the allies he has, the Freys and the Lannisters, or in some cases perhaps a personal affiliation with Roose, or desire for advancement. If Roose dies, yes, the Dreadfort men and direct vassals will probably follow Ramsay, but so many others would turn on him. Ramsay has made a lot of enemies with his behaviour, Lady Dustin, the Hornwoods, the Manderleys, and so on, and few allies. Roose has explained this to him, and may think he understands, but Ramsay has repeatedly shown that he acts without thinking of the consequences. Ramsay might also not be able to keep the allies that Roose has made for himself, especially the Freys. The coalition that swept the Boltons to power may well fracture because Ramsay can't or won't see the implications of killing his father. Without something significant happening at Winterfell, it's hard to see how Stannis' snowbound, weakened army or any other might successfully siege a dug-in Bolton force in the castle. And just as a thought, perhaps Ramsay has already killed his father. We wouldn't know, and although I believe the pink letter wasn't actually written by Ramsay, why would someone else write it as if it's from Ramsay if Roose was still alive and in charge? Surely Jon would be more provoked by a letter from the man he knows betrayed Robb. It's far from conclusive, but definitely food for thought. If we're looking for further hints in the text, then perhaps Tywin Lannister, the person Roose allied himself with's death at the hand of the son he considered a bastard, but probably wasn't, could be echoed by Roose's at the hands of the son who was a bastard, but now technically isn't. In every case, there's an element here of evil being the cause of its own downfall. Roose tells Theon the rather horrible story of how Ramsay was conceived. I'll spare you the details, but if Roose had not been the horrific man he is, Ramsay wouldn't even exist, and his son Demeric, who seems to have actually been quite a decent human being, would still be alive, and Roose wouldn't be facing the threat of his own son murdering him. Ramsay may have the motive, means, and probably will have the opportunity to murder Roose, but it will do him no good. He may rule for a while, but soon the Starks will return to Winterfell, and then, surely, he too will be gone. If you'd like to see more videos like this, digging into the northern plotline in A Song of Ice and Fire, there's a link to that playlist appearing now on the left of your screen. Or to support this channel, thank you. There's a link to my Patreon page appearing now on the right of your screen. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.